Economists are this morning cautiously optimistic that Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana will have a little more wiggle room as he puts the final touches to his midterm budget policy statement today. In fact, increased revenue collection has raised expectations and hope that the minister will announce improvements to the country's financial well-being. That address is expected at 2 p.m. today. But let's continue with our build-up and take you to our economics desk in the Western Cape, more specifically in Cape Town. That's where we find our Nompumelelo Siziba, who joins us now live. And Nompu, of course, all kinds of businesses are watching this budget very closely, including those in the property sector.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Ayanda. Indeed. So I do have with me Shawn Theunissen. He's the founder of Property Point, and his focus really is on SMEs. And of course, the budget, the midterm budget, will be important in terms of its indications around the kind of support that SMEs are going to get. We know that the economic environment has improved somewhat in terms of lower inflation and expected decreases in interest rates. But of course, we have to wait and see, how quickly the Reserve Bank is going to assist in terms of interest rate cuts. And even then, we know that there tends to be a lag in terms of the actual benefit that's enjoyed as a result thereof. So let me not waste any further time and speak with Shawn. Thank you so much, Shawn, for joining us. So, of course, the midterm budget comes with a new GNU, the Government of National Unity, with 10 different parties, and all of these elements contributing to this new midterm framework. What are your thoughts?
Yes, no, it's definitely positive. I think we're starting to see that upturn from an economic growth. So even though economic growth is a bit sluggish, predicted at about a 1.4% to 1.6%, the positive elements is that decrease in inflation, decrease in interest rates. But I think from an SMME point of view, that's something that lags for them. So we need consumer spending to increase in order for SMMEs to be able to access that. The other element is appropriate sources of funding. We still need access to appropriate sources of funding for SMMEs. So hopefully in the speech, the minister will also make sure that there's an allocation towards the support of SMMEs, specifically from a funding perspective. Other elements that we want to see is very much the investment in infrastructure and how that will relate to SMMEs getting involved actively within the economy. And then also, I think a positive element around the GNU as well is very much fixing up a lot of elements. So taxation at the moment, how does that taxation relate to SMMEs? Will there be a reduction in certain areas in terms of the ease of doing business, easing the red tape for SMMEs, and reducing that tax burden for them?
What about one of the elephants in the room, and that is the state of municipalities, because that's where SMEs operate?
Yes, I think definite key focus around cleaning up municipalities, ensuring that we have good governance elements in place, but making sure that they create an opportunity for access to markets for SMMEs to operate effectively. And then also the age-old challenge that SMMEs face, specifically working with municipalities, is payment terms, being able to effectively ensure that we are able to pay SMMEs on time in order for them to operate effectively.
What about the situation of electricity? Great, we've got tons of it flowing in with no more load shedding since March, but the cost of it is rising, becomes quite untenable seemingly for SMEs, not to mention households as well.
Yes, and I think it's a double-sided coin when we speak about the energy crisis. So we had load shedding, it's being reduced, we have electricity now. So two other elements that comes out of it is, like you said, the cost of it, the increase in electricity, and that has an effect on businesses. But during the time of load shedding, a lot of small businesses ensure that they invested in infrastructure to ensure that their business go on. So that was a capital investment, and now there's electricity, so they're not seeing the rewards of that. The other element is that we saw a big move towards SMMEs going into the solar space, specifically residential. Those businesses are struggling at the moment. So there needs to be effective support programs in order for them to say, how do they take that new solar business that they've created and make sure that they speak to a broader element around the green economy. So hopefully a lot more focus and focus around the green economy and especially the just transition process for small businesses in this new energy space.
Yeah. In terms of other sectors, where do you see potential low-hanging fruit for SMEs as we go forward?
So definitely in infrastructure development, we see that will have a knock-on effect around the telecommunications space as well. A supply chain downturn of that is also construction industry increasing. So those are low-hanging fruit in the current economy.
All right, Shawn, thank you so much for your insights there. Shawn Theunissen, he's the founder of Property Point. Of course, we're here and we're actually situated, Ayanda, in the venue. It's the first time that we've ever done this, you know, just hours before, to be in the venue where all the stuff is going to be happening, where Enoch Godongwana is going to be addressing various parliamentarians and other parties from outside. So it's quite a coup for us to be able to manage this, but it also tells us something though, because you remember we've been covering the midterm budget and budgets. We've been covering these from City Hall at some point, and I think there were a couple of big occasions at the International Convention Centre here in Cape Town as well. But it shows you that things are tight. There's not much budget for the budget, and hence it's been held in a marquee, but it is quite a cute marquee.